Hello, everyone. Welcome to my DataCamp tutorial series. I'm Professor Adam Kroom, and today we will focus on Introduction to the Tidyverse, Chapter 4. Chapter 4 focuses on types of visualizations. Visualizing median GDP per capita over time. A line plot is useful for visualizing trends over time. In this exercise, you'll examine how the median GDP per capita has changed over time. Instructions: use group by and summarize to find the median GDP per capita within each year, calling the output column median GDP per cap. Use the assignment operator to save it to a data set called by_year. Use the by_year dataset to create a line plot showing the change in median GDP per capita over time. Be sure to use this expand_limits y=0 to include 0 on the y-axis. Okay, so let's look over on the right-hand side, and we see that we have to summarize the median GDP per cap by year, then save it as by_year. Okay, so let's see. Summarize. So the first thing we're going to do, by_year, because we know we have to save it as that. And we'll use our assignment variable or operator. And what are we going to save to by_year? Well, from Gapminder, we'll then use the pipe group by year. We'll use another pipe and then summarize median GDP per cap. All right. So let's see if that looks right. Use the group by and summarize to find median GDP within each year. Yep, that looks good. And then create a line plot showing the change in median GDP per cap over time. Oh, you know what? Actually, I forgot. Median GDP per cap equals to median GDP per cap. Now it's better. And to make this like even clearer, let's go ahead and put it on separate lines. Yeah. Group by and then summarize. All right, that looks good. And then create a line plot. So we know that to create a line plot, we're going to have to use ggplot and then by_year, AES for aesthetics, y, x is equal to year, and then y will, the y-axis is median GDP per cap plus geom underscore. So we're going to go geom_line to create a line plot. And also it says be sure to use expand limits to include 0 on the y-axis. So we'll just copy that and we'll add it to the end like this. Submit answer. Cool. Great. Looks like the median GDP per capita across countries has gone up over time. We'll move on to the next exercise. This exercise is called Visualizing Median GDP per capita by Consonant over time. In the last exercise, you used a line plot to visualize the increase in median GDP per capita over time. Now you'll examine the change within each continent. Instructions. Use group by and summarize to find the median GDP per capita within each year and continent, calling the output column median GDP per cap. Use the assignment operator to save it to a dataset called by year continent. Next, use the by underscore year underscore continent dataset to create a line plot showing the change in median GDP per capita over time, with color representing continent. Be sure to use expand underscore limits y equals 0 to include 0 on the y-axis. Okay, so let's look on the right side, and that tells us the first thing we have to do is summarize the median GDP per cap by year and continent, save it as by underscore year underscore continent. Okay, so we know that we're gonna have to save it as by underscore year underscore continent. So we'll start off with that. And then what are we gonna gapminder pipe, and then group by, parentheses, year, continent, because it says summarize median GDP per cap by year and continent. So we'll group by year, continent, pipe, summarize, and median GDP per cap is equal to the median function of GDP per cap. Okay, that should be good. And then the next instruction we have is to create a line plot showing the change in median GDP per cap by continent over time. So we have to create a line plot. So we'll type in ggplot, and then we're using this by year continent data set to create the plot. So then we know that after we type ggplot, parentheses, and we're gonna have to put this in there, paste it, type it. I'll go back and forth just to show you different ways of doing it. AES for aesthetics, X equals year, comma, Y equals median GDP per cap. So median GDP per cap is going to be on the Y. And then it tells us it wants us to use color to represent the continent. So we'll set color equal to continent. And then plus geom underscore line. And that's so that way we create a line plot. And then finally, because it's like yelling this at us, be sure to use this. We'll make sure that we use this. We'll copy and just paste it at the end. Boom. Submit answer. Excellent work. Take a look at the plot. Did the growth in median GDP per capita differ between continents? And we'll go ahead and continue to the next exercise. So like I always say, make sure that you watch the video so you can learn the important information presented in the video. But so that way we don't waste too much time in the tutorials, we'll go ahead and skip the video. So after you've paused the tutorial, watch the video, come back to the tutorial and unpause it and pick up here. And this exercise is called visualizing median GDP per capita by continent. A bar plot is useful for visualizing summary statistics, such as the median GDP in each continent. Instructions: use group by and summarize to find the median GDP per capita within each continent in the year 1952, calling the output column median GDP per cap. Use the assignment operator, this, to save it to a data set called by underscore continent. Use the by underscore continent dataset to create a bar plot showing the median GDP per capita in each continent. All right, so let's look on to the right side. It says summarize the median GDP per cap by continent in 1952. So let's go ahead and do that. It wants us to save it as by underscore continent. So that's what we'll start with. And then we're going to use Gapminder pipe and filter year. What year? 1952. And then pipe. And then we're going to group by, group underscore by. And what are we grouping by? We're grouping by continent. And then we'll use another pipe. And then we're going to summarize. Median GDP per cap equal to median GDP per cap. All right, that should be good. And then next, it tells us create a bar plot showing median GDP by continent. So if we're gonna create a plot, we'll then ggplot by continent aesthetics with x equal to continent and y equal to median GDP per cap. And this, we want to create a bar plot. So we'll go boom. Let's try that. Excellent. That's 3 kinds of plots you're now able to make with ggplot2. So that's one really cool thing about R is that you can make some really nice different types of plots and very nice visualizations for, your publications and whatnot. All right, so moving on to the next exercise. This exercise is called Visualizing GDP per capita by country in Oceania. You've created a plot where each bar represents one continent, showing the median GDP per capita for each. But the x-axis of the bar plot doesn't have to be the continent. You can instead create a bar plot where each bar represents a country. In this exercise, you'll create a bar plot comparing the GDP per capita between the 2 countries in the Oceania continent, Australia and New Zealand. Instructions: filter for observations in the Oceania continent in the year 1952. Save this as Oceania underscore 1952. Next, use the Oceania underscore 1952 dataset to create a bar plot with country on the x-axis and GDP per cap on the y-axis. All right, so we'll go over to the right. Our instructions say filter for observations in the Oceania continent in 1952. So let's do that. We'll first start with Oceania underscore 1952. Gapminder pipe filter, continent, Sienna, I think I spelled that right. Year, what year? We want year 1952. All right, in the next step, it says create a bar plot of GDP per cap by country. Okay, so we're gonna create a plot. So let's go ggplot. Boom. X is equal to, it says country on the x-axis. So X equals country. And then what's Y? Y is GDP per cap. So we'll go Y equal GDP per cap, like that. And then what's next? What kind of plot? We want a bar plot. Let's see if how that works. Submit answer. Good work. Looks like the GDP per capita of these two countries was similar in 1952. Cool. Let's continue. And we'll skip the video, but make sure you watch it. And the next exercise that we're on now is called visualizing population. A histogram is useful for examining the distribution of a numeric variable. In this exercise, you'll create a histogram showing the distribution of country populations by millions in the year 1952. Code for generating this dataset, gapminder_1952, is provided. Instructions. Use the gapminder_1952 dataset to create a histogram of country population in the year 1952. Inside the histogram geom, set the number of bins to 50. All right, so we'll look over on the right, and it's telling us to create a histogram of population with pop by million. Okay, so then we gotta make a plot, right? So ggplot, we're gonna gapminder 1952. It's telling us right in the instructions to use gapminder 1952 dataset to create a histogram. So that's what we're doing right here. And then, of course, we got to set up our aesthetics with x equal to, what's x equal to in this case? X is equal to population by million. And what's left? Oh, it also says, hey, we want the number of bins to be set to 50. So we got to make sure that we do that. And the way we do that is we're going to go geom_histogram, and then we'll put bins equal to, how many bins do we want? We want 50. So equal to 50. And let's submit answer. That's right. Notice that most of the distribution is in the smallest leftmost bins. In the next exercise, you'll put the x-axis on a log scale. So we'll continue. All right, this next exercise is called visualizing population with x-axis on a log scale. In the last exercise, you created a histogram of populations across countries. You might have noticed that there were several countries with a much higher population than others, which causes the distribution to be very skewed, with most of the distribution crammed into a small part of the graph. To make the histogram more informative, you can try putting the x-axis on a log scale. Instructions. Use the gapminder underscore 1952 dataset to create a histogram of country population in the year 1952, putting the x-axis on a log scale with scale underscore x underscore log 10. All right, cool. Then all we got to do is look over on the right, and it says create a histogram of population with x on a log scale. So how do we do that? Well, we wanted to create a histogram, and we know that to create a histogram, we got to use ggplot. And the data set that we want to use is, it says right here, gapminder underscore 1952. So we'll do that. And then we know we got to set up our aesthetics. So X is going to be, what do we want X to be? X is going to be population, right? It says population. So aesthetics, X equals pop. And then next, histogram. And over here, it says put the x-axis on a log scale with this. Yeah, so I'll save myself a bit of typing and just copy and paste that right here. Cool, looks like we've satisfied our instructions, so let's submit our answer. Great, notice that on a log scale, the distribution of country populations is approximately symmetrical. Cool, let's move on and we'll move past the video to our next exercise, which is called comparing GDP per capita across continents. A box plot is useful for comparing a distribution of values across several groups. In this exercise, you'll examine the distribution of GDP per capita by continent. Since GDP per capita varies across several orders of magnitude, you'll need to put the y-axis on a log scale. Instructions. Use the gapminder underscore 1952 dataset to create a box plot comparing GDP per capita among continents. Put the y-axis on a log scale with this, scale underscore y underscore log 10. Okay, so let's look on the right side, and what does it want us to do? It says create a box plot. Okay, so how do we create a box plot? Well, I think we know by now that we're going to use ggplot. And then the data set we're going to use is this. It tells us use this data set. So we'll just copy and paste it this time. And then what's next? We got to set up our aesthetics such that x is equal to, what do we want x equal to? We want it to be equal to continent. And next, we want y equal to GDP per cap. And what else do we need in here? Well, we want to create a box plot. So we're going to go geom underscore box plot. And then is there anything else we need? Yeah. It told us this time, it wants us to put the y-axis on a log scale. So last time we put the x-axis on a log scale. This time we're going to put the y-axis on a log scale. And we'll just copy and paste it. Boom, like that. And let's submit our answer. Looks good. What continents had countries with the highest GDP per capita? Let us continue. The next exercise is called adding a title to your graph. There are many other options for customizing a ggplot2 graph, which you can learn about in other DataCamp courses. You can also learn about them from online resources, which is an important skill to develop, and we'll definitely be looking at more visualizations later. As the final exercise in this course, you'll practice looking up ggplot2 instructions by completing a task we haven't shown you how to do. Instructions. Add a title to the graph comparing GDP per capita across continents. Use a search engine such as Google or Bing to learn how to do so. After this exercise, you are almost done with this course. If you enjoy the material, feel free to send Dave a thank you via Twitter. He'll appreciate it. And all the information about the course material, you can find it in the info provided along with the YouTube video. So I put a lot of information about the course and whatnot um, in the notes section or the comments section of the YouTube video. All right, so let's see what we have to do. Add a title to this graph, comparing GDP per capita across continents. Okay, so let's see how we do that. ggplot, gapminder, our aesthetics are set up. Let's see, it looks like it's going to be a box plot. Cool, it's the y is scaled to log. And then what else? We just want to add a title. So all we got to do is go to the end, plus, and then to make it really clear, I'll just put it on the next line, and we'll go GG title. And uncreatively, we'll just copy and paste this title there, right? So it's in bold, and it's saying add a title to the graph. So we'll just go ahead and use this as the title. Yeah, look good? Let's give that a shot. Submit answer. Brilliant. Now you know how to look up additional methods for customizing graphs. That will be very useful in your career as an R user. All right, and cool. So that completes our tutorial on Introduction to the Tidyverse, Chapter 4, as well as our chapters 1 through 4 overall. I will go ahead and film a distinct set of videos for the next lesson that we'll cover on R. I hope you enjoy the tutorials, and thank you very much for your attention.